We shall make wonderful.
Okay.
So you start.
All right. Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are seeing, you are watching my screen. Are you? I'm trying to share my screen there. Members,
You have
are you
not
now
yet
seeing?
shared. We can see you, but not the screen.
Oh. Is it there right now?
Yes, it is there.
Okay. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to welcome you to this call. I want to thank you for showing up. And this afternoon, again, we are going to look at Geography Paper 1 at UCE. And today, we are mainly going to share tips or techniques on answering map work questions. In our previous meeting, the issue of map work stood out very, very prominently. And we promised that at another time, we would share something to do with the map work or map reading. So this afternoon, this evening, I will be sharing or facilitating you with the techniques of answering map work questions, and especially according to the marking and evaluation standards of Geography Paper 273/1 at UCE. Like we did last time, I'm mainly going to highlight the common errors that are made by the candidates during their presentations at national level. So I know we have been taught, and we have been taught very, very well. What is it that normally fails us to transfer this knowledge, to use it to answer the questions that are put to us? Let me just do a check again. Colleagues, am I clear there? People on this call? Am I clear? Are you ready? Am I clear there? Are you able to hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Oh, okay, then that is very good if you are able to hear me. So today, like I have said, I will be sharing with you the common errors that are made by candidates when handling map work questions at UCE. So let me start it here. Ladies and gentlemen, the core instruction of the setter is that the candidates must study the map extract before answering the questions that follow. Candidates must therefore demonstrate that they have studied the map by reading all their answers from the map extract. Many times we have found that the candidates have got very, very good facts. The challenge is that the facts they are putting across are not read from the map. And that is the core of this note I put here. The moment the candidate stops giving examples from the map extract, he or she also stops earning marks. The reason, and that word study is key. We want you to demonstrate that you have studied the map before you start answering the questions. And that's the core instruction from the setter. He will always give you that instruction. Study the map extract of such and such. Study the map extract of Bulisa and answer the questions that follow. This therefore means that it is incumbent upon you to demonstrate that the answers you are giving us are as a product of having read the map extract. And that is the key separation point in map reading. Actually, many people will call it map work, but today I'm going to be using the word map reading because that is what we are testing, the ability of the candidates, the ability of the learners to demonstrate that they have got the ability to read the map. Note, therefore, here, that examples from the map must be very, very specific answers from the map. This is key, ladies and gentlemen, participants on this call, that the examples from the map extract must be very, very specific. Avoid giving us general examples. And how are we expecting you to present your examples? Number one is by using specific place names on the map. A candidate may choose to give us examples using specific place names because the maps are going to have features and the names. One of the most fundamentally known ways of presenting examples is by reading the examples using their specific place names from the map. Charlotte, you have raised your hand. Hello? Charlotte? Okay. Number two, the candidates may also use specific direction on the map. There are certain features that may not have specific place names. And therefore, the best way to give examples from the map is by using specific directions on the map. I know we have taught you, I'm talking to the candidates now. We, when I say we, I'm meaning the teachers. Our teachers have taught us how to use the compass direction. And the compass is one of the cardinal marginal informations on the map. If there is anything on the map that does not have a specific place name, the best way that you can use to give an example in reference to such a feature is by telling us the specific direction in which it is on the map. Apart from using specific place names and specific direction, a candidate may also use specific grid reference locations. A candidate may tell you, there is tourism in this place. The question will be why? Because I have seen a rest house in such and such, at such and such a grid reference location. That candidate is using specific grid reference locations to be able to read their answers from the map. A candidate is also free to use specific grid square or grid boxes. When I talk about specific grid square or specific grid box, I am simply referring to the 4-figure grid references. Again, like I have used the example of a rest house, another candidate will tell you there is tourism in this area, and the question will be why? You'll tell us because, yes, please.
Banana student. Huh? What do you always use to connect to the speaker?
Another candidate. Hello.
Yes, I think, may I request you to put it on the full view? Like, we can start maybe the slideshow.
We start the slideshow?
Hmm.
Oh, I seem to be in slideshow. Where do I go next?
From there.
Then? Is that better?
Continue pressing.
I continue pressing.
Very, very much better. Now continue pressing these arrows. Continue
Okay.
pressing up to the slide we are on.
Okay, is that better?
Perfect.
Okay.
Very, very much better. So let me also first mute everyone, then you unmute us such that we don't have any poor background noise. Okay, we are good to go now. Mr. Ambasan, you can unmute and continue. Mr. Ambasan, unmute.
Yes, please. Okay.
Okay, we can go on to.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I was giving you ways in which we expect you to read your answers from the map extract. That many times we have got candidates giving us very, very good answers. They cannot score marks. They are not getting scores. Why? Because they are not reading their answers from the map extract. And yet the core instruction of the setter is that you study the map extract and answer the questions that follow. And so I was at this stage where I'm guiding you on how best we are expected to read our answers from the map extract. I've spoken about specific place names. In areas where the areas, something or any feature does not have a specific place name, then you may use specific direction on the map. Remember, there are some places which already have got specific place names. So you can use a specific direction in relation to other places which are already on the map. I was also advising that you can use specific grid reference locations. Like I was giving an example, we have got a question before us. What are the economic activities taking place in such and such a place? And somebody has seen a rest house and wants to use it as evidence for tourism. You can use the grid reference location and say there's tourism in Bulisa, in Masaka. And the reason is that I have seen a rest house at such and such a grid reference location. You too can use specific grid squares or grid boxes. When I talk about grid boxes, I'm talking about the 4-figure grid reference. In which box is the future? The candidate is free to tell us that they have seen there is tourism in this place because they have seen a rest house in this specific grid box. So, having said that, let me, where is my, okay, there we go. I have put this note here for you, especially you, the candidates on this call. Note that the last 2 methods above are very cumbersome and time wasting. I'm talking about the use of specific grid references and the use of specific grid boxes. It normally takes a lot of your time. And that is why I'm advising you here that you are advised to use the first 2, which are also the most commonly used. Candidates who are using specific place names and also all using specific directions are quicker in doing their work, and they are also they're using the most commonly used methods of map reading the specific place names or reading their answers using specific direction. So I'm not saying number 3 and number 4 are wrong. I'm only advising you that these 2 actually take a lot of your time. You find a candidate spending 15 minutes, is looking for the grid reference of the rest house. At the end of the day, that time is never recoverable. By the way, at this moment, let me also advise candidates on this call that please be strategic when handling this paper. I have seen candidates who will strategically position themselves to handle certain questions quickly. You will find somebody is answering a question in section B, In 20 minutes, the person has successfully scored 20 marks in section B. Some other candidate is using 10, 15 minutes, is looking for the grid reference of the borehole to earn 1 mark. Therefore, it is very, very important that you are strategic in your presentations so that you don't waste a lot of time dealing with specific nitty-gritty details. And that is why I'm advising you here that whereas all the 4 ways are good, can be used for reading your answers from the map, the last 2 are quite cumbersome and time wasting. They are correct. You are free to use them, but my humble advice is that it could take a lot of your time. Let me now use this one here. I just wanted to give you some example here using specific place name. For example, in this map here, the candidate is expected to identify the economic activities taking place in the area shown on the map extract. The candidate identifies the activity as transport and says it is because they have seen a transport route. And that transport route is shown on the map. Butiaba Masinde Road is actually shown on the map extract. This candidate is reading their map, is reading their answer using a specific place name on the map. Another candidate will tell you, for example, that there is tourism. The question will be why? Because of the presence of Murchison Falls National Park. This candidate is reading his or her answers from the map using specific place names on the map. In the event that they are some futures do not have specific place names, then I strongly advise you to use specific directions on the map. Another candidate would have told you that this tourism because of the presence of the Victoria Nile River. The river is using specific place names on the map. So I'm advising, ladies and gentlemen, students on this call, that please, it is easier for you to score marks when you read your answers using specific place names or specific direction. But you are free also to use grid reference locations or grid boxes. It is allowed, and you will score your marks. The core of map reading is here, that the candidate must demonstrate that they have studied the map, and after studying the map, they are now answering the questions by reading all their answers from the map. I want to insist again that the moment you stop reading your answers, the moment you stop giving examples from the map extract, my dear good candidate, you have also stopped earning marks. And that is the core, that's the key error that our candidates make. They normally give us very good answers, but they have not been read from the map. Some of them just use the general presentation. There is, let me get here. They said there's transport because of the presence of roads in the area. That is not correct. A candidate who is reading their answers from the map is that candidate who is specific, because that is the core of the SETA. Study the map extract and answer the questions that follow. Okay, I'm still giving an example here. Ladies and gentlemen, I also wanted to guide you here on the grid references. In the recent past, the scores for grid reference are no longer obvious. In the past, we used to say grid reference marks are obvious. In the recent past, if you have noticed, I know you are using the question bank, you will discover that the SETA has become very specific, and therefore I am calling upon you to adhere to the setter's specificity when identifying futures. I was sharing with you this. I hope you are seeing where the arrow is pointing. Are we seeing where the arrow is pointing? This area here. You're going to discover that in this area here, there are about 3 futures. One of them is a river. This river you are seeing here. Oh, sorry. The river that you are seeing here, running from there, coming down here. The second future is the all-weather loose surface road that we are seeing here. Another feature is the culvert that we are seeing here that helps the road to cross this river here. So there are about 3 features there. Now the setter is going to be quite specific. And I wanted you to note that please be aware of the other detractor features at the same grid reference. Let me now give you an example using that one there. The setter, for example, is going to say, identify the drainage feature found at this grid reference here. The candidates sometimes are very quick to identify the culvert and the road. But those ones are not drainage features, my dear good candidates. A candidate will be very quick to identify the road. The road is there, but it's just a detractor. The setter one is looking for the drainage feature. Another day, the person will be asking, what is the man-made feature found at this grid reference here? The learners will be quick to see the river, which is not a human-made feature. He may even say, identify the physical feature found at this grid reference here. Therefore, the learners are supposed, first of all, to demystify the different types of features on the map. Sometimes to discover the specific feature being asked for later on when they have even left the examination room. I am therefore guiding here that be patient with the specificity of the setter. What is the setter looking for? At this particular area here, what is the setter looking for? And many times you are going to find that where the setter is asking such a question, there are a number of detractor features. Like in this case, you are going to find if the setter is looking for the drainage feature, the road and the culvert are actually detractor features. And you many times find that those are the ones that the candidates are able to see very, very quickly. So in this particular slide here, I'm only asking you, the candidates who are on this call, to pay some little attention on the idea of specificity in the setter's questions. It is the common way of setting this question in the recent past, and that is why I'm talking about it. And my experience is telling you that many times the candidates, and because of examination pressure, they are very, very quick to see the detractors. They see the detractors easily than the future being asked for. So kindly try to look out for the specific future that these people are looking for. All these here are examinable features, and they shall be looking at your ability to be able to identify or to isolate the different types of features at different locations. I have already warned you about detractor features at the same grid reference, and so I'm sure you will take care. The other thing I wanted to share with you this evening is about calculating or determining determining certain things on the map extract. And when you are looking for calculations at ordinary level, you are going mainly to find they are being asked to calculate the area, to determine the bearing.
Sorry, we have lost Mr. Ambasan, but he's coming back. Sorry about that.
Okay. Okay. Do I need to share my screen again? Are you seeing it?
You can share again. It has gone
Hello.
off. Hello, Mr. Ambasan, you can share again.
I share again?
Yes.
Okay. I think that, sorry for the interruption there. Very sorry for the interruption. I'm very sorry. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Ambasan, we are there.
Okay, great. Let me go back to presentation mode, right?
Yes. Okay. Now, maybe, okay. Fine.
Okay, thank you. Welcome back. I'm sorry for that interruption. That many times the candidates are being asked to calculate, to determine the area of irregular features on the map. Calculate the area occupied by the lake. They are being asked to determine the bearing between 2 points. We are asking them to determine the trend between 2 points along a common feature. Determine the trend of the loose surface road from this grid reference to the other grid reference.
Mr. Ambasan, your screen is not yet on our side. Oops, sorry. In case you are seeing the current screen of Mr. Ambasan, kindly type in the chat in case for you are seeing it. Sorry. Mr. Ambasan has some network issues. So let's give him some minutes to get back online. Okay. Yeah. Mr. Ambasan, you can unmute.
Many of our candidates, where do they go wrong? They do their calculations in the question paper on some rough work, and they walk out with the marks. They only record the final answer. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very important. We have taken you through the methods, and therefore it is very, very crucial that you demonstrate how you arrived at the answers. Let me give examples here. This is a sample question derived from some of the past papers. And so what are our expectations? What are our expectations? If we are being asked to calculate the area, for example, what is the examiner's expectation? Three things that the candidate should be able or must be able to do. One, the learner must be able to state and apply the formula. Here, this is the formula, sorry. And the learners should be able to state the formula. And the formula is known to all of us. How do we get the areas of irregular shapes on the map? By counting the full squares, counting the half squares, and dividing them by 2. That is the formula. The learner has stated the formula. If the person now goes ahead and counts the full squares, counts the half squares, this person is now applying the formula. That is where you are getting the first marker from. Ability to state and apply the formula. What common errors do our candidates make? The candidates are very quick to go and apply their formula without stating it. I am therefore guiding you that for you to earn the very first mark, the very first score is derived from your ability to tell us that you know the formula. And then number 2, apply the formula on the map by reading or by counting the full squares and adding the half squares divided by what? By 2. Where are you deriving the second mark from? The second mark is going to be derived from the scale of 1 grid square. Remember, we are just reading the grid squares and we are using them to determine the area covered by a future. So it is important that we get to know the area of 1 grid square. And when you measure using the linear scale, because what skill are we testing in this? We are testing your ability to be able to determine area using linear scale. So it is important that the learner must first and foremost determine the area of 1 grid square before they can count the squares and use those squares to determine the area occupied by a lake or any other feature, maybe a forest. So at this point here, the learner should be able to determine the area occupied by 1 grid square. And when you measure using the linear scale that we are normally given, you find that the square's sides are the same. And when you measure using the linear scale, you will always discover that it is 1 kilometer each side. How do we normally get the area of a square? By multiplying side by side. So we multiply 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer to determine the area of 1 grid square, and we state it as 1 kilometer square. Now remember, we already have the squares. We added the full squares plus the half squares here. We added the full squares, which were 10. When we divided the half squares, we got 7, giving us 17 squares. How do we use the 17 squares to determine the area occupied by the future? By multiplying the squares by the area of 1 grid square, because we just read the grid squares and we are using them to determine the area. So where is the third marker going? The third marker is a combination of these two. Your ability to get these squares and multiply by the area occupied by 1 grid square and stating your answer in the correct units. These 3 things are key, ladies and gentlemen. In determining the area, we are looking for your ability to do 3 things. 1, to state and apply the formula. The most common area the candidates make, they start applying the formula without stating it. Some of them will state it and they cannot apply it. After stating it, they run straight to tell us the area, which is wrong. If you have been allocated 2 scores, then it is going to be distributed according to how you apply these 3 things. Are you stating the formula and applying it? Are you able to derive the scale of 1 grid square? Are you able now to apply? Are you able to multiply the number of squares times the area of 1 grid square and state the answer using correct units? That is the core of stating the area. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite you. I want to guide you that in determining the area, the most common errors made by the candidate, they normally avoid the scale of 1 grid square. And once you have avoided the scale of 1 grid square, our question will be, where did you get the kilometers squared from? This one is a key area here, which you normally omit. Many candidates, after getting the 17 squares, they will simply come down here and declare that the area occupied by the lake is 17 kilometers squared. Our question is, where did you get the kilometers squared from? That is why an excelling candidate is that candidate who has the ability to first and foremost determine the area occupied by 1 square before multiplying the rest of the squares with the area of 1 grid square. So that is something that is really required of us. The other area I want to share with you is determining the bearing and the trend. What are the key marking points on the bearing? Okay, let me start with the trend. A trend on the map extract is determined, or the trend, we are looking at the range against which, if I were to determine the bearing of a given point along a certain feature, like this road here, where would it lie? That is why we are determining 2 different angles from the north point. Maybe let me first explain the bearing. It will help us to get this one better. In determining the bearing, we are looking for the angular distance between 2 points, point A and point B. Bearing is done on the actual map, just like I have done here. I was determining the bearing of this trigonometrical station from that trigonometrical station there. Where do I get the angular distance from? I get my angular distance from the point where I am determining the bearing from. What is the method? We have already taught you how to determine bearing. What are the key marking points? After doing the bearing, what you normally do on the map, we want you to demonstrate how you arrived at the answer. One candidate can demonstrate this by drawing a simple sketch in the answer booklet, then measuring the angle and telling us that the angle, the angular distance from the north point between this point and this point is 331 degrees. Here, you are demonstrating to the examiner how did they arrive at the answer. This is just a simple sketch. You don't even need to draw it to scale. It is simply a demonstration that this is how you arrived at the answer. Another candidate may add the angular distances. Like here, when I look at this, the candidate may add the 90 degrees here, the 90 degrees there, the 90 degrees there, and then the 42 degrees here, to tell us that they were able to measure. So another candidate will be able to demonstrate their answer or their working by adding the angles that they have measured. That candidate will also earn their 2 marks for telling us that they added these angles to get this angular distance between those 2 points. Another candidate can be able to demonstrate their working by drawing a simple sketch to show how they arrived at the answer. What are the common errors that the candidates make? Most of our candidates normally score the 1 mark for the bearing, actual bearing, but they lose the mark for the working. And there slowly you are beginning to lose our marks there. So I wanted to show you that questions that require you to calculate, questions that require you to calculate, questions that require you to determine. And we have awarded you 2, the setter has awarded you 2 or 3 scores. Then you know that how you demonstrate to earn your mark is a skill that is going to be scored. And when you tell us the correct answer, you earn a mark with the correct units. I have seen many times most of our candidates losing the mark for the area because they don't state, they state the distance here when it comes to the units. They will tell you the area is 17 kilometers. So units are very, very important, and I want you to think about them. When determining the trend, again, like we have seen for the bearing, that after doing the working on the map, after getting the points between which you are determining the trend, please join the points with a straight line. After doing that, measure the straight line, and what you get, divide by 2. Then draw a perpendicular line here in the middle. After drawing the perpendicular line, determine the angular distance from the north point to the line joining to the southern side. After that, determine the angular distance using a protractor from the north point again to the line joining to the other side. What you get here is what you are going to determine, what you are going to decide. What the first angle that I obtained here was 150 degrees, which is this one here. The second angle was 336 degrees. So what is the trend of this road? If I were getting specific bearings along this road here, they should fall between 150 and 336. Therefore, the trend of the boundary lies between 150 to 336. A trend is just a range. What range would we expect to get specific bearings along this boundary line? And I'm saying, after doing whatever we normally do on the map, then we can go and do the demonstration. We can go and do the demonstration in our answer booklets to show how we were able to get the trend. I know that the trend is a bit confusing, but that is what it takes. The trend is just a range. Like we normally ask you in section B, describe the trend of coffee exports. You normally tell us that the trend is increasing it has increased from 1,000 to 2,000. That's the range. The trend has increased by 1,000 tons. What's the trend of this boundary line here? If we were to get specific angles, rather bearings along this, where would they lie? They would lie between 150 degrees and 336 degrees. How do we get the trend here? By measuring 2 angles from the north point. Immediately I'm determining the the trend along this road here. I will identify the points. They will even tell me that determine the trend of the road from this grid reference to this grid reference. That is the first thing. I identify the points between which I am drawing the trend. After identifying them, I join them with a straight line, like I have done here. On the map, the way we normally do for bearing. After that, I measure this line here. Can be using a ruler. I measure the line, and I draw a perpendicular line in the middle here to help me get the two angular distances, which are going to be the expected range if I were to get a specific bearing along this road here. And after doing it on the map, I'll go to my answer booklet and demonstrate to the examiner that you told me to get a trend between this grid reference and this grid reference. What did I do? I identified the points between which I was getting the trend. After that, I joined them with a straight line. After joining them with the straight line, I measured the straight line, and I was able to draw this perpendicular line in the middle. I measured the angle leading to one of the points. I also measured the other angle leading to the other point. And therefore, if I were to get any specific bearings along this, then most likely it will fall between 150 and 330. And this is how we state the range. The range is between 150 degrees and 336 degrees. That is how we determine the trend of a road, the trend of a river, the trend of a boundary line like the one we are seeing here. Where do our candidates go wrong? The candidates are very good at doing this on the map. After that, they lose this mark here for the method. They don't demonstrate how they arrived at the answer. So I'm just advising here that it is very, very important that you are able to demonstrate how you arrived at the answer by drawing a simple sketch to demonstrate what was done on the map extract. I'm sorry I've taken time there, but I read something in the chat there, and somebody was actually saying, oh, the trend is a bit confusing. Yeah, but it's just like a bearing, only that in this case, we are getting two angular distances between 2 points, and we measure them clockwise from the north point. The other thing I wanted to share with you on this call is drawing of sketches. And this is an area which is challenging many of our candidates today. The key sketches we have been asking the children to draw may be a cross-section or a relief section. And if they are not asking us to draw a cross-section or relief section, they're asking us to draw a sketch map. Where are the marking points? Let me start with the sketch map. Every time they ask our learners to draw a sketch map, that is when they perform very poorly. Why? Because the setter normally asks the candidates to do 3 things. One is to draw, and that one the candidates normally do very well. Number 2, to mark. The candidates are also very good at marking. The only thing they don't do, what fails them to obtain marks, is they do not name or label. Because the question is going to be very, very direct. It's going to be very specific. Draw a sketch map of the area shown on the map extract. On it, mark and name. Our candidates are very good at drawing. They are very good at marking. Where do they lose the marks from? They don't name, they don't label. At that point in time, what are we testing? We are testing your ability to read the key. Ability to read the key. What are the key evaluation areas on a sketch map? One is marginal information. Marginal information is not a big deal. Marginal information simply is the simply are the qualities of a good map. The title, the frame, the compass direction, the scale, and the key. And the key, that is what we call marginal information. Where are you going to, how are you going to earn marks? Tomorrow. How are you going to earn marks from there? I'm sorry for that interruption. What is the marginal information? I'm not talking about marginal information, simply refers to the qualities of a good map. Number two, the other key evaluation area on the map are the features that are demanded by the question. Let me take you here. Okay, I've already explained the marginal information, the title. Oh, let me explain this briefly. Many candidates don't earn marks for the title because they are telling us they are drawing a map. No, that the title must be a sketch. Why? Because you are not drawing the map to scale. That is why that word sketch is being marked there. Two, the title must state what you are drawing. The title must be informative. What are you drawing and what does the drawing show? Avoid giving us titles that read a sketch map of the area, a sketch map of the map extract. No, the sketch map should state what you are drawing, the name of the area. And it must be informative. It should be able to tell us what does it show? What is the sketch showing? What to show is going to be in the examination paper. They will have told you, draw a sketch map of Bulisa, and on it mark a name, Roman 1, rivers. Roman 2, roads. Roman 3, this and this. So your title to earn a mark as a marginal information area must tell us what you are drawing and what the drawing shows. Tell us what you are drawing, the name of the area. Tell us a sketch map of Bulisa. Not a sketch map of the map extract, no. And it must be informative. What does it show? What to show is going to be in the question paper. The other marginal informations are right there. The frame, the direction, the key, or labeling. I want to advise here, ladies and gentlemen, the features demanded by the question must be marked in their relative positions. I also want to advise that when marking features on the sketch map, use the conventional symbols used in the key. It helps you to earn marks quickly. Why are you creating your own symbols when we have the conventionally acceptable symbols, even already provided for you in the key? Features should be named as provided for in the key for open-end questions and specific for closed-end questions. I am going to explain this one here briefly, and please pay attention. What are open-end questions? Open-end questions, I think here we are, things to note about required features for labeling or naming on the map, sketch map. The demand of the question may be close-ended. A close-ended question is the one which is going to ask you, draw a sketch map of Bulisa, and on it mark and name Butiaba Masindi Road. That is a close-ended question. The setter has already determined which road they want you to draw or to mark and name. It is close-ended. Study the map of Blissa. On it, mark and name Lake Albert. That is a close-ended question. The set has predetermined for you the future that you must mark and name. An open-ended question is that question which is going to be asked like this. And please pay attention to me. Because every time they ask our learners for open-ended questions, they don't score any marks. An open-ended question is the one which says, draw a sketch map of Blissa. I'm talking about Blissa because it is the most current map extract that we have seen. That's the map of 2022. They are going to say, draw a sketch map of Blissa, and on it, mark and name Roman 1 roads. They are not specific about the roads. What are we looking for? We are looking at your ability to go to the key and be able to see the different types of roads. That the road I'm putting here is a loose surface road. It is a dry weather road. It is a bound surface road. That is the close, rather the open-ended questions. The ability of the learner to read the futures from the key. They're going to say, draw a sketch map of Blissa. On it, mark and name swamps. Sorry. Mark and name swamps. What are we testing here? We are testing your ability to go to the key and be able to see the different types of what? The different types of swamps. And even when you are marking and naming, you should be able to tell us that this particular swamp here is a seasonal swamp. And this swamp here is